an amazing instrument. It has developed into an incredible voice in today's music. So many types of guitars, so many styles of playing, all sorts of gear. How does one make their voice be heard as a guitarist? My name is Jeff Floro, and welcome to All About Guitar, where we talk tone, we talk technique, we talk gear. Where we discover how we can become better musicians in a world of constantly changing technologies. Where we take a good look at everything guitar, and sometimes not exactly guitar, but just as important, so we can be more successful as a musician in today's music scene. So sit back and relax, and let's explore all about guitar. Hey everybody, welcome to All About Guitar. I have a great show here tonight, and my very good friends over at G&L Guitars are here. Dave McClaren, President of G&L, David Brown, the custom shop artist relations guy, and Ron Moreno, very longtime friend, the national sales manager, and Ash Jangda is the good friend of theirs. I think he's been playing the G&Ls for a while. He's here to demonstrate the guitars. And we have a bunch of cool stuff that they're going to talk about, some new things. And I want to get into a little bit of the custom shop because if you go on to the All About Guitar Facebook page, a few months ago, I did a tour of the facility, and I did a couple of videos with David talking about the different types of things that he does in the custom shop. We'll go into more detail about that in a minute. But I just want to welcome all you guys. It's great to see you back again, and it's always a pleasure to have a bunch of guitars in the room.
Thank you for having us.
So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up. I'm going to kind of nudge you guys to get a sneak peek. I know some stuff is top secret, but like, what can we expect at NAMM, and what's new at you guys?
Well, as we look at each other, well, how far do we want to go with that? You can see some of the direction that we've done this year with the CLF research models, where some of this stuff, it's kind of our close look at our history, and sometimes you think you know it because they're in your filing cabinets, you walk past it all the time, you think you know it, but decades go by, and what you know about it is actually less and less, right? So this year we really spent a lot more focus on the things in our history, studying old models and so forth, and that has sort of influenced some of our designs this year, like the CLF Research L2000 bass, L1000 bass, this Skyhawk guitar. So these are things where we're making stylistic nods, maybe functional nods to models from the past, but we're also doing the latest and greatest things we can because we know that Leo Fender would expect whatever you guys are doing, for example, in your neck, your truss rods and stuff, you should be doing that. So we've also used that as sort of a springboard to go, all right, some of the things that Leo Fender gave us, we've tweaked and are really great, but what if we start to think if Leo Fender were to create, maybe look at other things that perhaps weren't popular in the marketplace at the time, right? Imagine it was the 80s. You look at Doheny, they would have never considered doing that because, jazz masters, that wasn't happening then, right? If it was today, they would probably be looking over and go, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe we could do stuff, our thing to it. And the Doheny guitar, that's very much in that vein, where particularly my brother Johnny, who's the sort of the chief geek in that, he was trying to imagine, well, if we were to do a Jazzmaster pickup or that kind of shape with Leo's magnetic field design technology, how might he go about it? What kind of parameters might he choose? The aperture, kind of how wide it is that you can wind the wire around, and how many turns would it do with the magnet and those kind of things. But I think we did a pretty good job on that because it was very well received, and we were very proud of it. Then almost immediately, people said, would you make one with humbuckers? Which I kind of think that means, let's put some Gibson kind of humbuckers in,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
really cool. I mean, it's a great thing. You could see these toppings on different shaped pizzas, and you know what it's about, right? And that's absolutely cool. We do that. It's great fun. But we thought after Doheny would be should we not at least make an effort to create some kind of special humbucking pickups for the thing, Because we really spent a lot of time doing the Doheny single coils. So if we're going to do a humbucker, we should really take our time. Just don't try to cut stuff, make it happen. But we did in the early springtime of this year, we began to work on Doheny humbuckers, and Johnny begins with the pole spacings and so forth. And it turns out the interesting thing is the pole spacing, it came out almost exactly the same as the 70s Music Man Stingray Guitars bridge pickup.
Really?
In a Jazzmaster kind of format, you've got two pickups, you have the same pole spacing, but he chose that because it also lined up pretty well with the neck position.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of geekery that he does. Well, I'm thinking about sounds and possibilities and functions and so forth. And I must admit, my brother Johnny gets his hands more dirty in that. But in the spring of this year, we started assembling them, and the first pickups, they were horrible. And in fact, the second and third pickups were horrible. They were hot. They were
Way
just
too loud.
I said they were just like a dumpster fire. And after like 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 sets of pickups, it just felt like it wasn't really going anywhere. And I really didn't know what it wanted to be, because I felt like we were being pushed into the mission to make humbucking pickups, not what should this guitar be about. So it sat for a couple months maybe, and just kind of hiding out because I don't know what to do with it. So then we took another stab, and we went way with the other way. We really took a lot of wire off, and we were trying different types of wire, and we approached it. We're going to start with this really nice, light, sort of jangly thing, and then we'll give it a little bit more fire to it. So once we started the other way around and thought about how Leo might use the pickups to offer what I call fundamental coil control, rather than here's the pickup, and traditionally, like a Gibson pickup, you'd have 2 leads that came out, and then you could later have 4 leads. But we thought, could we create something where it will sound very good as a series humbucker, particularly in the bridge position? Because if it doesn't rock, don't talk to me about humbuckers,
Right.
Because that's the first thing you expect. Because if the people were coming from a position of, if you put 2 humbuckers on it, I know it's going to rock. So if you come at me with something different, make sure it ticks certain boxes for me, or don't waste my time. So we had to make sure it did that. But also, if it could sound very musical and jangly as a parallel humbucker and as a single coil. So this is, once we started narrowing down some parameters and bouncing around, and we found things that sounded really great in the neck and the bridge, having those coils controlled, the question was, well, how much control should we give the guitarist? Because usually there's not many controls. Guitarists tend to have less things on it. Even bass players tend to have a bit more, maybe a couple more switches on that kind of stuff. And we tend to push it even with one maybe extra mini toggle. So here we are, we have a 3-way, and we have one toggle that controls the coils of one pickup, and another one that controls the other pickup. So that's 2. So there was some fear that might be somewhat rejected, but on the other hand, Leo Fender tended to want to trust that musicians have the competency to deal with additional controls should they be presented to them, and the controls are doing something very useful, not kind of frippery stuff. But if it was very good and solid kind of control of the instrument, he was a fan of giving that control to the musician. But I think we've sort of shied away that in recent years. But because we designed these pickups that they could do these 3 things so well, let's give them the individual controls. And as a CLF research model, we sort of let that stretch out. If we're going to do something a little weird, we're going to go for it with the CLF research one, because that was, in a way, I think if Leo could get away with putting a couple switches on without getting, say, pushback from sales, He would, because it's cool. You could do that much
Well,
more with it.
I think that, like, for example, on you have the 3 pickup setup guitar, like a regular Strat setup, and you have a toggle. I'm spacing on the
expander switch.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you can, because one of the things that you could never do on a Strat is do like the Telly, where you have the bridge and the neck pickup. And with your toggle switch, it allows you to get all 3 pickups, which has never been done by any other guitar that I know of, unless it's custom, and be able to do that. So I feel that if the toggle's functional like that, where it gives you other possibilities, the guitarist will use it. It doesn't matter. And it does make a difference, playing those different pickups. It really does. I also want to point out, in listening to what Dave's saying in terms of the process of developing the pickups, if you listen to the one of the earlier shows that we did, we talked at length about the development of the original Doheny pickup, and it's amazing the amount of work that they do, the trial, working through and trying different windings, trying to get the thing to sound just right. And with this pickup, what I noticed different than the traditional humbucker, and I think that's part of the jangliness of it, is a humbucker, like a regular old type of 50s, 60s Gibson humbucker. When you really punch the guitar, or you have it set up so that it's like really as hot as you can get it, not the wiring, but like with the pole pieces, like we would bring the pole pieces close to the strings, and you're playing and you're really thrashing around, the pickup distorts. The pickup has like a modulation distortion. It interacts and it kind of gets dirty and weird. It's a nice sound, but it gets a little mushy sometimes. And I think with the super distortions that were popular in the 80s and stuff, when you lost a lot of high end, you lost a lot of low end, but you got this like mid sound, but it would get mushy. These pickups, I'm noticing, is that there's no distortion in that when you play the guitar. And I've been down to I've actually tried the earlier version of this, and we cranked it up in an amp but the pickups, each of the notes are clean. They don't interact like that. So you get that clarity. So like when he, do me a favor and Ash, just give me like a jangly type of sound. Now he's not playing really loud, high gain, but you can hear the clarity in the.
Both pickups.
Yeah, maybe get both pickups.
So you're hearing everything clear, and it's hard to describe it because it is a desirable effect. On an old Les Paul or something, it has its own place. But this sign, it gives you, it's closer to getting like a very quiet, when you do single coil, but also too, it gives you all that tonal versatility, because there's a lot of frequency response here that you're getting that you don't get on a normal traditional humbucker.
Yeah, well, it doesn't follow the rule of an Alnico pickup. It's very easy to figure out with an Alnico pickup how many wire, what type of magnet you're using, and you can get close based on the number of winds. In this case, it's not chartered, and it's a different with a magnetic field.
Is this Alnico?
No.
What?
That's why it's an entirely different approach to making the pickup.
Oh, okay. So the magnet's totally different
Yeah.
too. Because it's a great
So the
sound.
point is it where you have like, if there's a conventional pickup design, and you go, well, I'm going to alter that a little bit one way or another, but the parameters there, if you're going to make, say, a Gibson pickup or that kind of thing. We just started with, well, we're just going to construct it under this Jazzmaster cover, but after that, we're going to make a magnetic field pickup, like technologically, but everything else was free range, so we didn't have anything to go on, really. So it was it was fun. So we got to start from, how much space do we have?
Right. Now, how much from what you did on the original Doheny, how much did that come to play on this? In other words, what did you learn from the Doheny? Did that help develop this faster, or was it a totally different game?
The only thing, well, early on, the Doheny, with the two single coil pickups, it served to make the early prototypes of the V-12 pickups. It served to make them look particularly bad because the Doheny pickups, the single coils, were just so good.
Yes.
But each time pulling out the Doheny with the single coils, the reminder of the kind of jangle and air and dimensionality that you could get, that space that you hear, it was like such a high water mark that we didn't want to lose that entirely in the quest for something, saying humbuckers. There was just, how could we capture some of that? So we couldn't quite do it the same, but it was an aspiration. So that was sort of a guiding thing where, yes, we wanted it to be able to rock. So I knew the bridge position series wide open. If it does not scream to Marshall, then, it had to do that. But at the other end, if we could get some of this magic, jangly stuff, air that we got from the Doheny single coils, I think that's about the best we could do. So the last 200 or 300 turns on a pickup this way was rough battle. Mm-hmm. But once we got down there, we finally thought, well, we're going to have to make a decision, and we did.
Right.
So we're very happy.
Now, we'll go through in a second and show what the toggles do so you hear the differences in the pickup. But one of the things I've noticed is that when you go to single coil, there's not much loss of gain. Is that because of the difference in the design, or is that what did you discover when you were experimenting with? Because the single coil sounds pretty hot. I mean, close to the humbucker.
Well, you're going to notice a little bit more when you move to the series position than the parallel, because the parallel position, you don't get quite that same series boost, that bassiness that you would in the series mode. So I think moving from the single coil to the series, you're going to notice more. Not much you can do about that, but from single coil to parallel, yeah, they do sound a bit different. Just the parallels has the jangliness, but there's just more of a fullness about it.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and let's show. You want to start with the neck pickup or the bridge pickup? Sure. Okay. So and then just tell us what the toggle does so they understand.
Okay, right now Ash is in the neck pickup.
Yeah.
He's inside.
And he's in parallel mode.
He's in parallel. The toggle's all the way down.
Yes.
Okay, now he's in the middle one.
Single mode.
Does he have the bass?
Okay, that's all. So you hear a little more sparkle there, but in the parallel mode it's a fuller sound. So go back to the parallel mode.
It's a nice, fuller sound. That's the single coil. Yeah.
Now when you go up, it's into series. That's what you hear.
So that's like a traditional humbucker.
So a little bit more.
I really like that parallel mode. That just chimes.
Well, the other thing is the PTB. So, depending on where he's going to start with the treble and the bass, makes a huge difference, right? Because if you cut the bass,
turn the bass up and bring your volume down for a second. And then switch between the two.
Do volume about 9.
Single mode. And then there's parallel.
This is parallel. No, the reason I like the parallel is it has more, you hear more of the overtones.
Yeah.
It brings out the string a little bit more. It's just so crystal clear. But all three modes are really usable.
The fun thing is that you can go, hey, you got one switch to control the modes of just the neck pickup, and the other switch controls the modes of just the bridge pickup. So,
You can
hey, if you got
combine
them
them.
together, it's like, I want to have a series neck pickup, and I want a single bridge pickup. I can, so,
Or vice versa.
Yeah, so you have the same. We'll listen to the bridge pickup in a second, but I want to ask Ash something real quick, and that is, in using. I tend to, on my older guitars, the old days as an old rock and roller, I just keep the volume and the treble up full and just go and adjust from the amp most of the time. And a lot of that's from the practicality of that, going through a pedal board or whatever. You lose a lot of signal, so you just try to keep the output as hot as you can. And a lot of guys have modified their guitars where they bypass all the controls and just straight pickup. But I notice, G&Ls have always had plenty of gain and a lot. And I notice you roll off a lot, and like with the volume pedal and the volume control, and also the treble and bass, you play around with it a lot. What I wanted to ask you is, do you when you're playing like a rock gig where you're really cutting out, do you play around with that a lot? Do you roll off a lot? And also when you do roll off from the volume, is it like traditional guitars where you lose the high end a little bit, like how Clapton gets the woman tone, or is this pretty much straight all the way around?
Well, when I'm playing a rock gig, sometimes I'll just clean it up here versus like I just leave my gain all the way up and just kind of work the knob, just for like different sections of the song and how much breakup I want, depending on how hard of a rock gig it is.
Right.
Kind of like Van Halen stuff.
But do you lose
Right.
highs when you bring that down?
I haven't found that experience with the Dohenys.
Yeah, that's
With other
interesting. And I
guitars,
noticed that
have,
on the
I do.
Doheny, the single coil too. When you lowered the volume, you didn't lose the top
It's
end.
almost like he's got an internal buffer in there. It's not, but
Treble bleed.
it has that effect.
Right.
Treble bleed.
And like Clapton used it as a specific sound, but it's interesting. I mean, it to me, to not lose the high end, it's very important. Like you can bring the volume down so you can clean it up a little bit and dirty it when you need to, and then just adjust. You don't have to go near the amp. I think that's significant. But you use I noticed that when he was in here warming up before the show, he's adjusting constantly. He's using all those knobs consistently.
Yeah, and really, what he was just mentioning about where you get to the middle position, it doubles up how many choices you have. I found that pretty fascinating because just by having both pickups on, I have like these 3 tones that you get right here, plus these 3 tones, and then the combinations. So it's like 9 possibilities. Not to mention messing with this and that.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of yeah.
It gets to be.
Plus,
you can kind
there's always room for one more knob.
Well, let's go ahead and let's listen to the treble, the bridge pickup real quick, and go through the 3 modes, and then let's try some of the combinations and you guys can chime in what you found would be really cool ones to do, so we get an idea of what this, because there's just so much to this guitar. That's single coil.
That's the coil mode.
And humbucker. It's very interesting.
I really like the single coil mode for the bridge pickup in this particular.
It has a lot of bite. It has
Yeah.
kind of has that telly spank to it. It's got all that. You can get anything out of there. I mean, it's got a lot of tonal versatility.
The other day we were watching one of the guests who was just noodling away on one of these things. Already had some seat time, so already was able to click around to some favorites, And I remember sitting back, after that, a moment later, going, how many guitars was that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a switchblade.
I mean, and especially these days where you have to fly with one guitar, you very rarely get to take a second one. That's why I've taught even and again, the single coil one is really versatile in itself, but this does even more. It's really amazing. I mean, this again, if I was touring, I would take one of these because I can, even if it was just the single coil, it's close enough to get me a humbucker sound, has enough gain to push it. But at the same time, I can get all these other tones, and this thing is great.
Well, recording it would be,
Yeah.
for someone, who's able to open a lot of possibilities and not have to change a guitar.
Yeah.
Just sit in front of Pro Tools or whatever it is and be able to work it out with whatever it is you need.
Now let's take a listen to both pickups, and let's just show some of the potential in terms of dialing in, whether you're using the parallel, the single, and just kind of give us a little. So we're what, single and single?
Single.
Single and humbucker and the bridge.
Neck is series humbucker.
Now the neck is parallel humbucker and the bridge is still single. Now he's got a parallel neck and a series bridge, both humbucking. With a series neck and parallel bridge.
Yeah.
Real nice air in there.
It's real chiny. In all of the modes, it's very chiny.
Because we were sitting there with the benchmark looming over us. The Doheny, the pickups, that was tough to have around when doing this. But in the end, we have a single coil on this that's not the Doheny single coil, but a really nice MFD single coil. And it happens to do a bunch of other stuff as cool humbuckers.
No, your single coil mode is that pickup strong. But again, go to one pickup right now, either one, it doesn't matter, and go from the parallel to single and just play the same thing, and then just switch between
From single to parallel or from parallel to series?
from series to single,
Okay.
because series is the closest to like a standard
Yeah,
humbucker.
that's right.
Yeah, so just okay, go to single. The output is almost the same. That's pretty close. And then go to the
Parallel.
all the way around. It's pretty consistent, and that's important because when you're using pedals and you're changing around and stuff, all of a sudden you don't have the drive that's going. You set up a sound like you're using a processor, and it's not.
That's actually a big deal because a lot of guys that go to a humbucker and a guitar, the difference in setting on a pedal board, boost or otherwise, I mean, it just jumps out at you. In this case, you're relatively safe depending on what you're going to stop on your pedal board. So
Right.
you don't have to worry about 10 dB coming out back at you. So
Yeah, that is amazing how that's pretty close.
You will not need a booster pedal unless you
No, one thing, any G&L guitar, there's plenty of volume. I mean, like I've told you before with my bass, I used to run that direct without a direct box, and it would pin the needle. It was, it was putting out a few volts into the direct. I mean, I literally through the board. They were amazed at that bass. It was just so much output from that thing, and I very rarely used anything. It was direct. Talk about totally direct. That was totally direct. This is an amazing guitar. Is this available now or not yet?
We're just starting to ship them.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, they're out there.
And this you can do. This model is also available in the custom shop.
Yes.
So now said that on purpose because I want to seg to the custom shop a little bit. And again, like I said, several months ago I had done a tour of the facility, and I basically got to sit down with David, take a look at the Facebook Lives, because he talks about the different woods and what he can do. But I'm going to have him talk a little bit about, one of the things is why custom? Why go custom? Because, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory sense, because all their guitars off the shelf are just amazing, About a month and a half ago, thanks to you guys, I was able to do this test with Savara strings, and they gave me 2 Dohenys and 2 2000s, I think it was, the basses. And the consistency between those guitars was amazing. It was just, but I wanted to kind of go in, what kind of thing, what is besides the fact that you have different types of necks, and I want you to go into that a little bit, but talk a little more. What are your options? Why would you want to go custom? What can you do?
So just to get the neck shape thing out of the way first, the neck shapes that were previously available in the catalog, in the order catalog, are still available, but they're in custom shop now. Things like soft V-neck.
That's a couple of them. Most of the other ones.
Yeah, most of them, they're still there. But we're focusing more on materials and different pickup configurations and routings. So this particular one that we have here has a spalted maple top on it. It is
Do me a favor, hold that up so
matched.
they can see that in the camera. I mean, that is amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yes, I love that finish.
in a color that we call Aqua Burst.
That burst is nice. And what's the fretboard?
That is Caribbean Rosewood.
Okay, yeah, you had told me about that at the time I was there before. What are the options for the necks?
As far as materials, you can get anything from caramel ebony, Caribbean rosewood, Indian rosewood. We still have some of that available. We're also doing many roasted maple necks, as well as just natural maple necks, and they all come in different grades of flame 3A, 5A. That's mostly the 2 varieties that we use. You're able to obviously use opt out for a bird's eye maple fingerboard. We have those as well. Some of the things that we've been doing is we're trying to use Caribbean rosewood now as a replacement for Indian rosewood, and I think it's a really nice alternative because it's a little bit more dense than rosewood, not as dense as or bright as ebony is, but the grain's a lot tighter. The grain comes in many different shapes. This one's the kind of wavy style grain. You can also get a very
I
straight
noticed
grain.
from what you showed me before too, the grain looks beautiful. You can't see it on the camera, and it's hard to, even with my shooting a picture of it, it's hard to see the detail, but it's really beautiful.
So that one is done on a maple neck, and that looks like to be it, quarter sawn maple. All the custom shop necks are hand sanded, and they're hand sanded by me. I have to do that simply because we want to make sure that we get the shapes right. Things like the soft V neck, the modern C-shaped neck. We're also make sure that we do a nice edge roll on the necks, and it just works out really nice.
The edge, you can't see it, but if you were playing it, the way a lot of the edges of these frets, they're kind of
The edge roll.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's real smooth, so it doesn't grab when you're flying around.
So, and then we're also experimenting with different finishes, different styles of finishes, not the materials. We're talking about this one here being one of them. We also have, I'm right now messing around with a lot of the grain fillers that we normally use for ash in particular. So we have different color grain fillers that we use just to bring out the grain for certain colors that we do, transparent colors. We're using Guanacaste, which is, what do we call it monkey pod sometimes, but Guanacaste is really the.
It's its own thing, but it looks like that darker walnut finish.
Right, right.
you know, which
Isn't
is-
that also the East Indian walnut?
Yeah,
Is that what they call it?
yeah.
Is yeah.
Walnut.
What are you finding with those woods? What, if you can, what are you finding in terms of tone, so people can get an idea of if I order this, it'll sound like this?
Well, in particular, the Guanacaste is probably at on one end of the tone range, simply because it sounds very warm. It's a lot more, the grain's more open than say mahogany or even the okume stuff. So if you want a really warm sounding tone, just as a foundation, Guanacaste is a good choice. Next would probably be the okume that we use. A lot of it's coming in with a lot of flame and a lot of grain showing through. Then would be mahogany, but we have mahogany, and you can certainly order an instrument made of mahogany, but it tends to be a little bit heavy.
Well, in terms of what we're used to, these other woods that you just mentioned, would they be more like an ash sound, or more like a mahogany sound, or more like a alder sound?
Guanacaste, okume, and mahogany would be more like the mahogany sounds
Okay.
on the warmer
Right.
side. You start getting brighter as you go from mahogany to ash, for example. Ash is right in the middle, and then you have alder as it starts to brighten up a little bit. Alders are really nice.
But it depends
It's-
on how you pair the neck. So if you go with a
Yeah.
maple fingerboard, obviously you're going to be able to bring out a little more brightness than you would the
Right.
rosewood, right?
rosewood
So it depends on
fingerboard.
how you pair
Are
the
there
neck.
alternatives to alder? Or is alder not endangered? Is it pretty easy to
No, alder's pretty rare. Alder's a weedwood, so it's always available.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not going. It's
get?
not
So
going
alder will
anywhere.
be alder.
As a matter of
Don't have
fact,
to worry.
Ash was in a little bit of a peril a few years ago, but they're starting to farm it. It's being raised in farms now, so the price has gone down, and because usually you used to get the swamp ash from the south,
Right.
from the southeast, Louisiana, that type area, but now it's all there's some farms now in Germany. That are growing this stuff, so it'll be around for quite a while, and we're getting some really nice ash stuff. As a matter of fact, that's the material that I'm using most of the time is ash. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, you may not see it, but those prices aren't going down.
yeah. No, well, they're not necessarily going up either, but
Well, it's more available, so it's not
it's
as...
more readily available. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a scare. A few
Things
years
might
ago.
not go down, but
But-
at least people, if it's available, it's a little more competitive, and you can...
Yeah.
The thing is, in our world, the quest for is cooler, and then you start pressuring the supplier. Well, you know what? We'd really like to do this weight spec thing, and so you start to put the conditions on it. So you gradually start to pay more. But man, is the stuff that we get now really nice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the other things that everybody's asking for. They want a really light guitar. Guitars on the lighter side would probably range between 7.1 pounds to about 8 and a quarter,
Yeah.
maybe. That's on the
Especially
lighter
the
side.
older players.
Yeah,
They're on
and
shoulders.
so everybody wants that light stuff. So what I've been doing is I've been sourcing the wood. I go right to our supplier. I take a trip. I live down the freeway there a little bit. I take a trip there in the morning. I go select all the wood for the shop, for the custom shop, bring it back in, as opposed to just picking it from whatever inventory we might happen to have at the time. It's better that way for me because I label them, I use them myself, so it's all going to be light, 2-piece. I don't think I'm using any 3-piece spreads right now at all, which is kind of nice because you usually use 3 or 2-piece, but right now everything is 2-piece, which is better.
Now, let me ask you, I'll throw this out to all of you guys. For the regular Doheny and for the V-12, the humbucker one, what have you found is the best wood for the sound? I mean, what do you like? What would you recommend? If I was coming in like, yeah, I want a V-12, what would you recommend as a good wood to really bring out those pickups?
For me, personally, ash.
It depends on what you're going for. Again, it depends on the fingerboard you choose.
Yeah.
So if you said, well, I went rosewood and you went alder, that's not a wrong answer.
So you would do ash with the rosewood?
I would do ash with a rosewood or a Caribbean rosewood fingerboard,
Yeah.
maple neck.
What do you think?
I'm gonna do the okume because
Yeah, that's-
I want to look at that really badly. Looking
Well,
at
no,
that.
It's a really pretty wood.
But you have, I mean, you were showing me some other stuff that, I forget what you call it, but it's figured, it's actually diseased wood, but.
You're talking about the Buckeye burl.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Even this stuff right here is diseased. Really, this is all the little black lines that you see on there are rot in the wood. So
Right.
When you
It's interesting.
That's what the
this-
spalting is.
That's what spalting is, exactly. So this one just happens to have it in this area here, and not so much over here. There is a little bit over here and whatnot. But
He showed me some bodies of this stuff, and the patterns were just amazing. And it's
they are pretty neat.
What you have is wood in state of decomposition.
Yes.
Actually.
right. Give me that rot.
Yeah, I want that rot.
Yeah.
Rot top.
But they make for great patterns because
Yeah, they
you
do.
know,
It's
it's, every one of them is its
It
own
makes
thing.
them unique.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever done one of these guitars with a maple top on it?
Yes.
And how does that sound?
It sounds really nice. It's going to be the ones that I've done, Doheny style, that have had a maple top were hollow, so that's a whole different animal than this.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about a guitar, solid body guitar with a top, the top is probably going to be less than a 1/4 inch thick.
Yeah.
So it's really the backing, the material that you're using for the back that's going to, pretty much dictate what the tone of the.
Does
other
the
thing
maple
is.
brighten it up?
Yes.
It
Right,
would,
so-
sure.
Yeah. No, it's that's interesting. And I didn't even know you guys made a hollow one.
Yeah. We do. We make a hollow one.
Is it just hollowed out internally, or does it have like
It's-
enough hole
well,
or something on it?
It's the Doheny Deluxe. That it has two large tone chambers, one here and one here, and the center is always solid, and we glue whatever top you want on top of that. So I make the spread out of okume, for example. I made one with okume and did a spalted maple top, just like this one. You can also order one with or without an F hole. That's another option, and whatever color you want. And they sound a lot more. They have more of a woody sound.
Right,
It's
right.
definitely
And it must be. How much difference in weight?
it's considerably different.
Considerably.
It's lighter.
Now, you were talking about the finishes and the paint jobs. Now, there's I mean, the regular G&L production line, your
60
metallic,
colors, I believe,
your
yeah.
metal flake is like amazing.
Yeah.
But what is offered different in the custom shop? What else can you get? I mean, besides like this type of wood with this.
Well, I mean, there's a guitar that he posted for a bass, and that customer wanted a purple guitar, which we offer purple, but it's a purple metallic. But this guy just didn't want any candy in there.
He
And
just
he
wanted
wanted
the
a
color.
specific shade of purple. So he sent a photo, and the paint guy made up a sample, and we sent him a picture back, and he said, that's it, and we went ahead with the order. So he wanted a specific thing, and that's where you're going to get that in this case.
So you
There's-
can pretty much order any type of look.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm building a guitar for a customer that is made out of Buckeye burl, and Buckeye burl is generally very dark. As soon as you start shooting any type of clear material on it, it starts to darken up. So there's dark areas and light areas of the material, but it all gets dark, and he wants purple, a transparent purple that doesn't go into the pink side. So because
That's what's on your Insta, isn't it?
yeah, that's the one that's on my Instagram right now. As a matter of fact, so we shot it in purple, and he goes, "Can you make it darker?" I go, "As soon as I start putting more coats on it, it's gonna get way too dark." So it got dark almost to where it was almost like black, and so we lost the whole thing. So then these are samples. I'm not doing bodies. We sampled, so I started let me start with pink. So I started with pink, and I got to this real pretty magenta color, just using pink. Shoot pink. More pink, starts turning red, and if you shoot more, it starts getting into the dark red part of the spectrum. So he really liked that magenta, and I go, we can do that, no problem. So sending these photos back and forth via text, You try to take the picture as best as you can,
Yeah.
and do the color correction. And I tell him, I go, the photo doesn't do it justice. So we ended up doing that purple, and he loves it. He can't wait to get it. And that was a process. So I'm doing several right now with a couple customers that are like that, where we're coming up with the color as we go through the build. To say, I want this. Right now I'm doing a faded 3-tone sunburst in nitro. So the fade part is the hardest part, because the customer's version of a fade and my version might be different. So we're going to see where we're at and then try to meet in the middle and get him something that. And this is also over a quilted maple top.
Oh,
so I told him, I go, you got to be careful, because if you make it too dark, you're going to lose a lot of the quilting that you have on the top. So those are the things that we're
So you
going
do
back.
the traditional nitrocellulose
Yes.
finish, which is like the older guitars that yellows. Like I think my bass is yellow now. It used to be white, but that's that finish. But what other finishes? Just
All the custom shop stuff standard like this would be urethane.
urethane.
Yes, the regular production stuff is poly. This is urethane. I use a urethane color and top coat simply because it goes on a lot thinner, and it will act kind of sort of like lacquer over the years, where it'll start sinking into the wood. It's not so hard like polyester top coat can be, but
How does it compare to the nitrocellulose?
well, the nitro is much thinner. I mean, it's so thin that you can almost see the grain pattern through the wood. That's a whole different. So we start off with urethane, and then we offer the nitro option
As an option.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you think in sound? Do you think the nitro's better or the urethane's?
I think they're both comparable to each other simply because of the thinness. So a lot of people focus a lot of effort into what type of material. I like to focus on how much of it we use.
Right.
That's.
But is the
key.
urethane more durable than the nitro?
Yes, it is. It's more durable.
That's another thing. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's your workhorse, it's going to get beat up a little bit. So
For those guys looking for like a relic looked,
right.
with urethane, it'll look like a lacquer thing. So if you were going for that type of look, that'll do it.
The urethane will work.
Yeah.
You'll relic with you.
I can do a light age treatment on urethane. That looks pretty convincing. That's good. The heavy aging, the cracking, the weather checking can only be done on lacquer.
Because I love, like for this one, this burst. I love the way you guys do them. And you showed me other ones that had.
So one of the things that I work with Malcolm. Malcolm's our painter, and he's a great guy because he does so much there every day, and then to come up to him and go, hey Malcolm, can we do this here, but maybe get rid of the blue, just use these two shades? Sure. And he'll shoot one and we'll look at it, we'll go like, okay, well never mind, we'll just go back to this. We do this in different shades, so we're starting to mess around with different shades, purples, and that's really exciting for me because we do a lot of blues. Blue is very popular. It's very popular with me, very popular with people that are our customers. And so we're doing different shades of colors. Like we're using this shade of blue right here for a whole body. We're doing fades that are going from one corner to the other. We can go this way, we can go vertical, we can go horizontal fades. And
Yeah,
those
it's
fades
hard
can
to
be
see
different
on the
colors.
camera, but the way this goes to this like darker, richer cobalt blue.
If you go to the Custom Shop Instagram page and you follow us, you'll be able to see.
And what's
this
it
up
called?
close.
Just the G&L Custom Shop?
G&L Guitar.
Is it?
GL Guitars Custom Shop. We have to look it up. We have so many links.
Well, we're almost out of time. So while you're looking for that one, it's G&L Musical Instruments on Facebook, right?
Yes.
And is
That's
there a
it.
custom shop for
Yes,
Facebook?
G&L Custom Shop.
G&L Custom Shop, and you'll see, because he posts pictures of what he's working on and stuff, and he talks a little bit about some of the things, how he does stuff.
Yeah. Can we do the Instagram pitch on it? So
Go for it.
his Instagram is GL Guitars _custom _shop. GL Guitars _custom _shop. And if you want to see all the weird stuff I do with the projects, resuscitating old guitars and parts from decades ago. That is at CLF Research. CLF stands for Clarence Leo Fender. At CLF Research on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, and he had posted some stuff up recently, some of the original machines that Leo had, I think, built, or some of you were showing some of the really old, some of the stuff he was using.
Was it the stuff that was like out in that storage spot, like way out at the far end of the building?
You had like an ad for you showed a picture of an ad, like an old
He's
type
talking
of.
about the pin router.
Oh yeah. Oh.
You got to see some of the stuff that at their factory you can see some of these original machines, and it's interesting what he developed to make certain things. It's very clever in terms of he just built something to
satisfy that need.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It's just amazing.
It's like a working museum there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is we're trying to take some of the even the really oldest of machines, and then pull them out of the various corners of the building, and then reassemble them into sort of like a little mini CLF Research custom shop crazy town.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
And also too, go to the glguitars.com if I'm correct. You have like a little questionnaire thing you can ask, like what you can choose the neck, and I think that's for your regular guitars too.
In the main, let's see, if you go to guitars, made in USA guitars, then you're faced with a little tree, right? I think you get like Fullerton Deluxe, Fullerton Standard, CLF Research, and then option order. Option order is where all our Fullerton stuff has been before we recently started doing this Fullerton Deluxe, CLF, where they were sort of fixed things. Mm-hmm. Before that, you just go to Legacy and you could just pick out all the stuff. That hasn't changed. We just needed to put kind of a handle on it, a name tag, and we called it option order. But that's the normal.
Yeah, but you got to check this out because it talks about some of the you got to when you're picking your guitar. It's really interesting because you can do I want that type of neck? Do I want that kind of, I'm just using generalities right now, like the fretboard, but there's other things.
Like custom pickup configuration. Well, not in the options page, but for
right.
There's,
shop, but just go through that whole area.
Yeah.
It's
even
really
before
cool.
Even before you get to custom shop, there's a lot of stuff you can do. From different woods and colors and pick guards and neck profiles. That's just in the main factory. That's how we've always been.
Right.
Well, no, it's actually not. We started getting that way in the 90s, and it just kept going. But
it's cool.
That's still there.
Yeah, it's cool because you can really hand pick. Even in the standard models, you can pretty much customize, make it yours.
At that price, nobody does that.
No.
At that extent. So, it's something that a lot of people just don't know about yet,
And then real quick, if somebody wants to order a custom instrument, do they go through the store, right? And contact you and then go from there?
Yeah, the dealer will hash out what the customer wants. In some cases, we'll get an email here and there. But if you go to one of the dealers that's, labeled as a premier dealer or a custom shop dealer, that guy knows what he's doing and he knows how to field what the customer's after, and if it's off the sheet and he needs to ask us, then it's not a big deal.
Right.
Just ask us.
Right. And I applaud you guys because you guys are real loyal to your dealers, and that's important. That's very important. So www.glguitars.com is the main site. Check it out. Check out all these, the Facebook and Instagram. It's really interesting what they're doing. And especially, David, what you're doing with the custom shop. Some of the guitars are just truly beautiful and unique. And those woods, who'd have thought that we would, that rot would be popular? It's just amazing. But anyway, thank you guys again for coming down.
Thank you, Jeff.
I want Ash, if it's okay, just give us like a couple of minutes of something really. Do you want to use this guitar or the
it's up to you. You're the.
Stick with that time wise.
Okay. And everybody have a great night.
We should go with the other.
That's how we do it.
All right, so we're gonna have the V-12. This is these both of
That's
these.
rock and roll.
That one still has a flat low E.
I'll hold
That's
this
how we
one.
set it up. That was by customer request. Be slightly out of tune.
It's a
That's
blues
custom.
thing.
Yeah, it's a blues thing.
No, we call it jazz.
Yeah.
Here, I'll grab it and hand it to you. That's so beautiful. All right.